Every morning in the quiet town of Maplebrook, commuters gathered at the old train station, a small place with peeling paint, coffee-scented air, and the gentle hum of engines preparing to leave. Among them was someone who didn't carry a suitcase or a ticket, just a heart full of loyalty. He was a golden brown Labrador named Buddy. No one knew where he came from, but for the last 2 years, he had shown up at the station at exactly 7:45 a.m., sitting near platform 3 waiting. Rain, snow, or scorching sun, Buddy never missed a day. His fur was a little rough, his collar worn, but his eyes were soft and kind, as if they held a secret no one else could understand. The vendors had grown fond of him. Old Mr. Jenkins, who ran the coffee cart, would always set aside a biscuit. "Morning, Buddy," he'd say. "Your man's still not back, huh?" Buddy would wag his tail once, a polite acknowledgement, then turn his gaze toward the arriving train, ears perked, tail still. Each time the train screeched to a stop, Buddy's head would tilt, his eyes scanning every door as passengers stepped out, hopeful, searching. And each time the crowd thinned, and no one came for him, he'd lower his head slightly, let out a soft sigh, and settle back down to wait again. The townspeople soon pieced together fragments of his story. 2 years earlier, a man named Daniel Harper, a kind-hearted teacher, had rescued Buddy from the roadside. They became inseparable. Daniel was the kind of man who talked to Buddy as if he were human, and Buddy listened like he understood every word. They walked together to the station every morning, where Daniel boarded the train for work. Buddy would watch until the train disappeared, then run home. Every evening, when the 5:30 p.m. train arrived, Buddy would be there again, waiting. But one stormy day, Daniel never returned. A tragic accident had taken his life on the city's outskirts. No one had the heart to tell Buddy. The next morning, when the train arrived, Buddy was already waiting. And when Daniel didn't step out, Buddy waited again the next day, and the next. Days became weeks, and weeks became years. Yet his loyalty never faded. The townsfolk adored him. He was more than just a stray. They'd built a small shelter near the platform where he could rest. Kids brought him toys. Travelers took photos, calling him the loyal station dog. Even the station master, a stern man named Mr. Hughes, couldn't help but soften. "That dog's got more heart than most men I know," he'd mutter, slipping Buddy a sandwich. Yet behind those warm gestures lay a quiet sadness. Every time the train arrived, Buddy's eyes lit up, then dimmed again. It was like watching hope die a little each day, only to be reborn the next morning, when he took his place once more. Then, one crisp winter morning, something different happened. A young woman stepped off the 7:45 train, carrying a suitcase and a single sunflower. She stopped when she saw Buddy, her breath catching. Slowly, she knelt. "You're Buddy, aren't you?" she whispered. Buddy tilted his head, sniffing her hand gently. There was something familiar, a scent, a warmth. I'm Emily," she said softly. "Daniel's sister." Tears filled her eyes as she stroked his fur. "He used to talk about you every time he called. He said you were his best friend." Buddy whimpered, a sound of both recognition and longing, and gently pressed his head against her knee. The station fell quiet as the woman hugged the loyal dog. Even the regular commuters paused, their hearts melting at the sight. After 2 long years, someone from Daniel's world had finally returned. That night, Emily followed Buddy as he trotted home, the same path he had taken for 2 years, faithfully retracing Daniel's footsteps. When they reached the little house Daniel once owned, Emily's eyes filled again. Everything was still there. Daniel's books, his jacket on the chair, and Buddy's old blanket beside the fireplace. Buddy curled up on it instinctively, as if saying, "I've been keeping it warm," Emily whispered. "He really was waiting for you, Danny." As the fire crackled, Buddy's eyes slowly closed for the first time in years. His weight no longer felt so lonely. The winter sun shone weakly over Maplebrook as Emily settled into her brother's old house. It was strange at first. The air still carried. Daniel sent the books on the shelf, still had his notes scribbled in the margins. And the coffee mug on the counter still bore his initials DH, but the real heartbeat of the house was Buddy. He followed Emily everywhere, to the kitchen, to the garden, to the porch, his paws always quietly echoing behind her. At night, he slept by the door, just as he once did for Daniel. Sometimes Emily would wake up and find him staring toward the road, ears twitching, as if expecting to hear that familiar whistle of the evening train. Despite the warmth and care Emily gave him, Buddy's eyes still carried a question, one she could never answer. Every morning at 7:30 Buddy would nudge Emily's arm gently then trot to the front door. At first, she thought he wanted a walk, until she realized where he was heading. The station. Even now, 2 years later, Buddy still arrived precisely at 7:45, sitting in the same spot near platform 3, watching every train that came and went. The townspeople had grown used to the sight, but seeing him now with Emily beside him added a bittersweet touch. "Still waiting, huh, Buddy?" said Mr. Jenkins, handing Emily a coffee, and Buddy his usual biscuit. Emily smiled faintly. "He never forgets." Mr. Jenkins sighed. "That dog loved your brother like family. Guess love like that doesn't fade, even when we wish it would." Buddy wagged his tail once and returned his gaze to the platform, eyes fixed on the train doors as they opened. No one came. Still he waited. Back at home, Emily tried to fill Buddy's world with joy. She took him for long walks through Maplebrook Park, let him chase butterflies, and even enrolled him in a local pet fair. He was gentle with children, polite with strangers, and always the calmest dog in the crowd. Until someone blew a train whistle for fun. Then his ears perked up. His tail wagged. His head turned sharply toward the direction of the tracks. Emily's heart ached. Even joy reminded him of loss. That night, as Buddy rested beside her chair, Emily whispered, "He wouldn't want you to be sad forever, Buddy. He'd want you to be happy." Buddy tilted his head, listening, his eyes glimmering softly in the firelight. For a moment, Emily swore he understood. Weeks passed. Spring came to Maplebrook. Flowers bloomed, the air turned warm, and the old train station filled with color again. Buddy still made his daily visit, but something had changed. Now, instead of waiting alone, he began greeting commuters, wagging his tail as if welcoming them for Daniel. A little girl would giggle and pat his head before boarding the train. An elderly couple would slip him a treat every Friday. Tourists took photos with him. The loyal station dog of Maplebrook had become something of a local legend. But even as Buddy spread smiles, there was still that one quiet moment each evening, when the 5:30 train arrived, and he'd stop, sit, and stare at the empty doors. Emily always stood a few steps behind, holding the leash loosely, letting him have his time. "Still keeping your promise, huh?" she'd murmur, and Buddy would look up at her, tail wagging faintly, before turning back to the train one last time. Years passed, and Maplebrook changed. The old train station got new paint, digital clocks replaced the rusted ones, and the crowds grew bigger with every season. But one thing never changed: the golden Labrador who sat faithfully near platform 3 every morning, as if guarding the memory of something sacred. Buddy had grown older now. His muzzle was dusted with gray, his movements slower, but his eyes, those warm, honey-colored eyes, still glowed with the same gentle devotion. To the townspeople, Buddy wasn't just a dog anymore. He was a symbol. Tourists came from miles away just to see him. Children would tug their parents' sleeves, whispering, "That's the train dog." Travelers took pictures with him before catching their trains, and the local newspaper even ran a piece titled, "The Dog Who Never Stopped Waiting." Emily watched all this with quiet pride and tenderness. She had grown. To her brother's memory had turned from a wound into a warm echo in her heart, and Buddy had been her healer through it all. Every evening, she and Buddy would sit by the platform, watching the trains roll in. Sometimes she'd talk to him softly, sharing bits of her day, and though he couldn't answer, his presence was all the comfort she needed. "He'd love how you turned out, Buddy," she'd whisper. "And you know what? I think he's watching us from somewhere up there, probably laughing, saying, 'That's my best boy.'" Buddy's ears would twitch, and he'd nuzzle her hand, as if saying, "I know." But time has its way of reminding us that even the strongest hearts grow tired. One rainy evening, as the 5:30 train arrived, Buddy didn't get up. He just sat quietly, gazing at the platform, the drizzle dampening his fur. Emily rushed to his side, kneeling beside him. "Hey, old boy, it's time to go home," she said softly, but he didn't move. He looked at her with those same eyes, full of love, full of peace, and rested his head on her lap. A few tears fell as she stroked his fur. "It's okay," she whispered. "You've waited long enough." The station grew silent. The passengers noticed, pausing mid-step as if time itself had stopped. Then, as the train whistle blew one final time that evening, Buddy closed his eyes. He took one deep, calm breath, and was gone. The boy who never returned was waiting on the other side now, and Buddy was finally home. The news spread quickly through Maplebrook. The next morning, people gathered at the station. Workers, travelers, vendors, families. They brought flowers, photos, toys, and biscuits, laying them gently near Buddy's favorite spot, by platform 3. Mr. Jenkins, his eyes glistening, placed a cup of coffee and a small cookie beside the memorial. For Daniel and his best friend, he said quietly. The mayor declared that spot Buddy's corner. A bronze statue was later erected there, of a Labrador sitting proudly, eyes lifted toward the tracks, tail curled neatly at his side. On the base, a plaque read, "In loving memory of Buddy, the dog who waited, the heart that never gave up, and the love that never died." Years later, children who never met Buddy would stop by the statue, running their hands across its bronze fur. Parents would tell them the story of the loyal dog who came to the station every day, waiting for his owner who never returned, and how he taught an entire town what true love meant. Emily, now older with silver strands in her hair, still visited the station every week. She'd sit on the bench near Buddy's statue, sunflower in hand, and smile softly. "I still feel you here, both of you," she'd say. "Thank you for teaching me that love never really leaves, it just changes shape." And on some mornings, when the sun hit just right and the train's whistle echoed through the valley, Emily could almost swear she saw a golden shape sitting by the platform again, tail wagging, watching the tracks, waiting. Because some bonds, once formed, live forever. Love doesn't end when someone leaves, it stays alive in every act of kindness. Every memory, every heartbeat that still remembers. Buddy wasn't just waiting for his owner. He was teaching everyone how to love, even when the world moves on.